Okay, folks, how's everybody doing? Let me just check my levels here, and we'll get this show on the road. Yeah, sounds about good. So, you should now see an explain screen. And I forgot to increase the size of the pop-ups here. But anyway, you've seen this. There's no changes in this department. Thank you very much for all the question how, if, will we implement similar builds. Lejules, yes, it will be. I don't know if similar to builds, but yeah, we'll have it implemented. There is a lot of stuff that's going to get implemented. So I'm not going to restore my position because I moved the airplane. So you know what? Am I going to create a new one? Yeah, let's just make a new one. Left. Hey, Spat Trap. There's so many people in here. Moscow, Sledhead AK, CMB Elite FR, Kimo, Whizball CBS, Twitch FAA, Werner Raff, Magasha, Andy Sim, Caster 571, Jehovah von Frazen, welcome, Luke, 1549, the Matium, Promo Wave, Lord Andre 72, Black 2306T, and Pancake 421. Thanks for a follow. TCAS RA. So many people of you guys. So everybody, welcome. Cool. Oh, welcome, Tommy 151. Sweet. So just in the FBO here, and since I've created a fresh airframe, so getting a more size appropriate yoke in VR. It's way too small, Magasha. That is one of the improvements, yes. It's getting there. You have experience in the real airplane, because so the yoke was a little bit undersized, not very much, but it was about 10 to 15% undersized, so we fixed that. Anyway, so I've got a long list to go through here. It is not a list of fixes. Well, no, mostly anyway, because we'd be here for until, a year from now. So we'll just go ahead and go through stuff that is new. It's not too many things that are new. Most of the changes that are in there are tweaks or slight improvements and stuff, but we've tried to put in like stuff that would improve immersion and wouldn't be too hard to do. So thanks for follows, everybody. You're very welcome to be here on board. Okay, so rock and roll. There are no tweaks here, but as soon as we go through the door, it'll be actually. Let me change one more thing. I'm gonna give myself a little bit of wind. I don't know which way is the airplane facing actually. We are facing currently about there-ish. Okay, so we'll give ourselves a little bit of headwind just into the airplane, just so we got some stuff to look at. Okay, about from there, give it like about that much. Good stuff. Oh, ask Jenny's voice, Mr. Scott here, and changing her name. About using Jenny's voice. I love when Jenny calls the aircraft. Yeah. We can discuss it on Discord. Not right now. Okay, so as soon as I walk out to the aircraft, what you'll notice, you'll get a little pop-up here. I'm actually going to make the UI here quite a bit larger, so you guys, that's a little bit too large, but yeah, about there. So you guys can actually see it on stream. And so you'll get a bunch of little hints, because we've been adding stuff that I know people are gonna be confused about how to get the doors open. Now, new thing is we have gear pins in the aircraft, so you can now forget those on takeoff. Now, there are many ways to prevent you forgetting, but we've got those in. We got fully functional probe covers are basically implemented. Yes, animated flags and chocks. And if you click on any of those, they'll take you to a short YouTube video I've pre-recorded. That'll explain exactly how to get them out, how to get them back in. Yes, so let's just go and play around with stuff. So the flags here, as you can notice, they're all sort of out of sync. It's not just a fixed animation. You might think, that'd be sort of the cheap and easy way to do it, but no, they're actually not all in sync, and it's not even fucking walk around the next level. Yeah. So these flags all actually have weight. They have a thrust being applied to them by the wind, and if the wind dies down, they'll sort of gradually dampen out. Is the pitot cover? Yes, it is. Of course, Lejuice. Yes. And you'll notice that as each of the flags sort of slightly twists around, it actually changes its surface area to the wind. So it actually does affect how much the wind is grabbing it. So if I make the wind a little bit stiffer, like 16 knots or something like that. Okay, the flags they're going to eventually settle down essentially once the oscillation dampens down from the wind. There they go. So same thing on the other side. We've got 3 flags. Now they all are taken into account. So if the flags are, if you forget to take them off, you will lose that sensor. You'll have to land and pin cover dynamics needed. Yeah, and they do get, if you do forget them on there, if you go to like very high speed, I'm gonna make it like, I don't know, 100 knots or something, simulate like a takeoff or something. They become very excited, and this is what they look like in flight, obviously. And they are actually correctly affected by the wind. So for instance, if you were stalling or flying at high alpha, it would actually deflect upwards. So they are aware of alpha angle. They are aware of wind speed. For example, now if I completely kill the wind, so I'm just going to go and kill the wind entirely, you'll notice that they won't just straight up hang downwards. No, they'll sort of dampen out slowly. Now, obviously, wind is not going to go from 100 knots down to nothing in 0 time. So obviously, in real life, in actual flight, it's going to look a little bit more believable. It is not going to all sort of sync up. Did I apply that wind? Oh, yes, I did. Okay, cool. So that's that. This is the most this is a feature I'm most proud of. Obviously, even if you had no wind, the turbine almost that turbine is almost like take of RPM, yeah. And obviously, for instance, one thing that they are also aware of is the local direction of gravity and acceleration. So when the aircraft, if you were to accelerate and slam on the brakes, the flag would actually fly forward and then back. So it is aware of any accelerations that are on the airframe. So those are our study level flags. You could at least estimate your AOA. Yeah, right? You could just look at the flag, which way is pointed, and then take a measurement or a gauge of your angle of attack. Actually, I'm quite a bit high above sea level. I think that's why the wind is kind of weak sauce here. So I'm going to actually put you up into... Yeah, there we go, more or less. Is there a study menu for the flags? No, there isn't, but there is a study menu for, well, it's currently shut down because I've got the aircraft is shut down. But for the integrated standby instrument, we can play around with that if you want. The integrated standby instrument has its own study menu now, where it shows the inertial state of the ISI's attitude finding algorithms. Anyway, gear pins doesn't move. Bugger feature. Good question. Why does this flag here not move? And there's a very good reason for that. Well, first of all, these guys obviously do move, and they bonk against the gear basically, so they can't really move very, very far. But yes, these guys move. So why is the nose one and Sledhead estimated it correctly? That's because it's squished in by the door. So does that mean you can open the door? Yes. Yes, you can. And we're going to get to it right away. So let's do a sort of a quick pre-flight. So, how do you actually crouch? So you can use either your default command binding for down, which I think on stock X-Plane is like a down arrow. But we have WASD and X, which is below S. If you push that, it'll crouch down. Or you can just walk up to a certain region, certain parts of the airplane. It didn't even need to crouch here manually. It does it automatically. And same thing if I were to walk over to the tail of the aircraft. It also crouches to, make sure you don't smash up your head over on this section of the airplane. And you open a nose. The radome compartment currently is not openable, not yet anyway, but we'll get to it. So, some slight improvements have been done here. There's been remodeling. This flap was moved and sort of recut because when it's the update release. Later today, I want to basically get to it. As soon as I'm done with the stream here, our testers have about 2 hours to like do any kind of final checks, make sure I didn't break anything, explodify it at the last moment, and then we'll get to it. So the flap here was remodeled. There's a bunch of tweaks done to the external shape of the aircraft. Not big tweaks to the shape of the aircraft, but internal tweaks. So go ahead and push out. This you've already seen. So pull the door. Constant sensitive areas. You can figure out how to do it manually. Yep. Alrighty. There's been fixes done to the door. For example, we do have our little locking indicator now in here. There have been also tweaks to how the door works. There have been graphical tweaks to make sure that the curtain here no longer clips through this little door. There are changes to UV mapping, not on the exterior model. There have been changes internally inside of the cabin, but not to the external model, Chris. So your livery should still work, as far as we can tell anyway. We haven't really tested that, but Gordon assured me that any changes that were done at the door were done in a manner that shouldn't affect liveries. Cool. So let's go ahead and establish electrical power on the aircraft. I'll just hop down into the seat here. Get rid of these guys. Our aircraft stays persistent. Yes, they should be, Jules. I tried hard not to break anything. It might give you a little warning at the start, but it should load cleanly. Okay, as every pre-flight or every APU start, we first check the fire system, so engine and APU squibs. Do an engine fire test. Jet pipe overheat. And do let me know if the audio is too loud. Plans for the cockpit curtain? Yes, there are. So we've got 5 warns, 5 fails. Good stuff. A bit too low. Audio is too low. Okay. We can fix that. Let me just do a check here. So if I boost this up. Now, careful headphone users in case it explodifies if it's too loud. Jet pipe overheat. Better or more? Wonderful. Alrighty. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dampen down my audio here for the exterior walk around so it doesn't, blow out your ears. It's going to make it about there. Wonderful. So, APU, crank it over. Now with that in place, was the source of the blue light found? Not yet, Matthew. You mean the one in the nose? Not yet. I haven't gotten to it. It was basically deemed a non-critical fix. So wonderful. I'm allowed to ask about shared cockpit release date. You are allowed to ask. I am allowed to not answer because I don't have it yet. Okay. So we've got that on board. The common procedure is whenever you make any switches here, or if you touch any switch over on the overhead, you typically bring up a synoptic page that is associated with it. So go ahead and flip that on. And we got electrical power. Now, who's providing us shared cockpit? Lovely Lottie, it's going to be shared flight, the add-on that's currently in beta. I think it's a closed beta. Anyway. Works the stickers on the throttle now when it kicks it in. I'm not sure. That sequence of words didn't really make sense to me. I'm sorry. Anyway, so will be added to FSE how they approach you about fueling. Perhaps, but it's currently not deemed very critical. Oh, there are teeny tiny there are little fixes all over the cabin. So let me turn on the cabin utilities here. One thing you might have noticed, well, you probably haven't. VATS multitude fix, yes. Yes. We've got shine on the screens here a little bit more. We've got some shine on this screen here, which wasn't there before. We've got some shine on this screen. We've made the wood a little bit shinier. We try to go for the perfect gloss look, but unfortunately it didn't look right. And unfortunately the next plane, what you would see is basically a reflection of the cockpit, which is not good. But ultimately for X-Plane 12, what we're going to do, I can tell you right away because I know that we're going to do that. This wood here and this wood here, basically all the wood is going to have a super high gloss finish, which is about the look that we have already on the side panels here. These jets have a supremely, it's almost, yeah, it's essentially the same sort of gloss that you've now got on the table, that will be on the table. It's not currently in your version, but it's going to be in update 1. This is the way they look. They are very, very shiny. So, yeah, it's a piano lacquer. So that is going to be there. But we've had to tone it down because it's just getting a little bit, you know, the way X-Plane 11's reflections work just didn't work right. Oh, right. We got movable window covers. So those are all in, all of them. So, guys, you can open these up. So I know you enjoy fancy graphical stuff. So those are in. Let me jump out and show you the gear pins. So the gear pins do actually function the way they should. When you, or if you forget to remove them, the gear's not going to come up. Wood in the lavatory is looking quite nice. Oh yeah. So, if you forget to remove them, the gear's not going to come up. So, to remove them, well, for the main landing gear, it's pretty straightforward. Come down, and the gear pin attaches right there. Goes through a little hole, and then this little section here slides over to, is the baggage compartment modeled? It's modeled, but not fully finished yet. There's a lightsaber behind those curtains. I don't know. I haven't truly looked, to be honest. I'm completely being honest here. I'm not, you know, I'm not being sort of coy. I really don't know the answer. Okie doke. So come over to the other side. Pull this pin. Get the gear pins. Will it affect pushback as well? No, pushback is not going to collapse your gear. There is a chance in reality that it would do that, but you know that is. Even got the pinhole cover. That's awesome. Yes, yes, we did. So to open the nose gear, you toe playing with gear pins always. Yes, but we're not simulating the gear collapsing. But in reality, there's a chance of you collapsing the gear if that is the case. So here's the motivation behind the gear pin stuff. You remove those gear pins via drop-down menu for VR users. No, unfortunately, Kate and Josh, you have to do it physically. So, why are gear pins even in the gear? Brief explanation of how these things work. This arm, the arm on which the gear sits, is essentially just a swiveling piece of metal. So I'm going to sort of hover my head through there so we can actually, you know, play around in there. This is just sitting on a swiveling axle, and so there's nothing extending the gear except for this here actuator. That is your entire gear extension mechanism. Now, normally when you've got hydraulic pressure on the aircraft, it is constantly applying an extension force, and it's trying to basically keep the gear out. That's good for when you've got hydraulics on the airplane, but what if you don't? You know, the airplane's been parked overnight, hydraulics have bled away, hydraulic pressure, what happens then? So in that case, there is an internal downlock solenoid operated by the gear control unit, the PSEU, the proximity sensing electronic unit, which keeps the actuator extended. So there's a little lock. But what if the lock fails? It is an electrical lock. It could, you know, stick. It could have a short in it. It could get retracted randomly. You know, it's not 100% reliable, and you do not want to have these things, you know, slam down and have the jet fall on its body. So to avert that, every time you park the aircraft, every time, they'll come down here, slide the lock in, and this pin prevents the gear from ever extending, or actually retracting. So it mechanically locks the actuator from moving. And when you want to pull it out, well, before flight, you have to do that. Model, notice the tread and the tires. Yes, we have. Is the hydraulic pressure effect modeled? I mean, if I forget, the gear pins will collapse. Oh, it won't collapse on you because it's a very rare event. It's more a matter of 1 in 100,000 chance of that happening. And even then, you'd have to like jostle the airplane around, turbulence. It's essentially an unpredictable effect. That's why we didn't simulate you coming back to an airplane with a collapsed gear. But we might in the future. So don't count on it being forever the same case. Okay, so we got these guys out. Now how do we get to the nose gear pin? As I explained, nose gear pin is squished, right? The flag is squished in, and we can't really get at it. The pin is about there. So to get at the pin, 30, right out, 17,000, okay. So we have to pop open this door. This is your AC power adapter plug. Normally when you've got, if you've got ground power connected, it goes in here. I never had the red covers. What do I have to have them? We'll get to that. Right. So you'll notice I try to open up the nose compartment, but the number 3 hydraulic system is depressurized. So close you back up. I gotta jump into X-Plane settings here. X-Plane's thrashing a little bit on the memory here, so I'm gonna just drop its resolution a little bit. It's not doing that because I'm in Orbex HD and it's pushing the boundary. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to pressurize number 3 hydraulic system. Again, as we operate every switch, bring up the synoptic page. 3A is here. Pull down. Okay, 3A is pressurized. So now I'm going to come over here. And with 3A pressurized, now I can come down. Pop, pop. And now we can actually get in the nose gear bay anyway. So yeah, you can literally climb in here and pull the pin. Yeah, and you can actually see how the gear uplocks. So let's see it. Yeah, there we go. There's the uplock mechanism. That's this piece here basically meets up with this section here and locks in place. Cool. We'll be able to see the pins on board once we remove Toto. No, reason being is the pins normally are stowed in this here little hole. We haven't animated that part yet. We might eventually, like, you'd be able to flip it open and see the pins in there. Is the nose door on the checklist for first needing? Yes. Yes, exactly. Weirdo. So, we've got the pins. And we'll close the door. So, we've got the pins. Is the light working in the nose wheel bay? Good question, is it? Here we have a non-broken Challenger, so yes, our light is indeed working. If I make it dark, yes, the light is in fact functional. There's some other stuff in here. Where do you store the covers? I'm not entirely sure where they go, to be honest. I don't remember. Let me come up here. These are your hydraulic brake accumulator gauges. And if I mash on my brake pedals, so this is the inboard brake system. This is the outboard brake system. With number 3 hydraulics, we've only got the inboard system pressurized. And watch what happens if I mash on my brakes. You can see basically how I'm draining pressure out of the inboard brake system accumulator, and then the hydraulic pump actuates to build pressure back up. And the same thing happens if I, let's see, you can actually see the pump operating if we go to electrical. Let's see, hydraulic 3A pump is over on this bus, if memory serves. Yes, there it is. Here's hydraulic pump 3A. So it's drawing about 150 watts. You know, this is just basically just topping up the pressure. As I start mashing on the brakes, it goes up to almost 2 kilowatts of power draw as it rebuilds pressure up there. So, yes, hydraulic system is fully simulated. And this, by the way, is not just this thing here. It actually feeds all the way back into like the original source. So, for example, you can see we're drawing, let's see. All right, it doesn't integrate draw here. There we go. So this is the APU generator. We're running off of APU generator. Watch this as I start mashing on the brakes. It goes to 4.5 kilowatts. And then back to about 3 kilowatts. And so that was just the extra load from the hydraulic pump here on AC bus 2. Pretty neat, eh? And you can even see it. Yeah, you'll see this actually. You want to see something fun? Let's see. Watch the electrical load as I close the as I close the nose door. It went up to about 500 watts. This is now back down to about 200 watts. About 300 to 400 watts. That was just repressurizing the system. Pretty neat, eh? Anyway, model the spiders in the front. Yeah, wheelbase. Okay, so we got all the gear pins out, and we're gonna take all the flags off here. There are 4 on this side, 3 on the other. Okay, so we talked about the gear pins, sorta. Next thing I wanted to talk about here is we've got oxygen servicing. We're intending to model service-based failures. Eventually, there's some stuff, but it's not going to be the same way as a TBM. Okay, so one thing that's changed. We have changed the manipulators here. Previously, you click and drag on it to open the door. From now, we've changed it to basically just a click. We just click on it and it goes between the 2 corner states. Yes, we're not over operators. Is the main door still click and drag? Yes, it is, Richard Peak. That's because that one, it requires a little bit more actuation by the pilot. Anyway, so here is our oxygen pressure, and is not correctly indicated. I literally just forgot to tie this up in the release version. But let's go ahead and blow the oxygen vent on the aircraft. So let's go, it's 30, which one's 35 is oxygen. Yes, there we go. And you request maintenance. Well, we'll see. So we'll go ahead and blow out the oxygen vent, which is over here. We'll prevent that we've essentially got like a overpressure in the tank, or maybe the internal, the overpressure sensor failed or whatever. And there goes our oxygen. Okay, so I'm gonna say we'll replace the vent here, so I'll clear the failure. And now we are down to oxygen low press on the CAS. Oxygen pressure here is bleeding out. This is the sensor, it's just fairly slow to respond. Okie doke, so there we go. Oxygen pressure is blood down, so now you've got inside of here, if you want, or obviously you're going to have to do it, on the ground you can do refill of the oxygen tank. There we go, oxygen tank is refilled, and this is going to come back up. Our oxy low press CAS here is going to go away, and there we go. Sweet. So we can go ahead and close this guy. And the click spot behavior, okay, get rid of you. Click spot behavior has been changed on all the external panels, so they can all just be clicked once to make them open. Increase the air quality in New York. Okay, same thing for the chocks. You can click on the chocks individually to remove them, or you can have the ground crew do it for you. The securing checklist does include placement of the front gear pin. Yes. Well, hang on. So does the securing checklist change? No, the securing checklist expects that you've done the walk around, post-flight walk around. Does it deplete with oxygen? Yes, it does. TCAS RA. It already does that, yeah. Okie doke. So that are the gear pins. Now let's imagine I forgot to, well, model the fuel hose truck. Aha! Actually on one of my items here, so let's go over to that. Yeah. So let's go ahead and call for an external AC generator. So, come on, put the cable in. Come on, there we go. So, AC power cable is in. We call for a DC generator. That guy's in. Then step over the cable, don't trip. Air starter unit. There it is. I need to probably shut this down. Whatever. Does the nose door open? Yes, right, it does. And there's also gonna have to, you know what? I'm gonna call Jenny to send a fuel truck. So let's disconnect this, disconnect that, and we'll disconnect the air start unit. I don't need you either. Go away. Refill bottles. Yes, that is also possible. It is in here. Our service fire extinguisher bottles. Now, in reality, it isn't as easily serviceable as the oxygen, but yes, you can do it. Until the issue is clickable. Yeah. We don't deserve this. Okay, so for funsies, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the new door. So gear, one more thing. Before I forget. Let's imagine you forgot to put the nose gear pin or pulled the gear pin or any one of the gear pins out. So put the pin in. So I left the gear pin deliberately in there. Mechanical, thank you. Glad you like it. Okay, let's pull the door. Got oil service. How does that work? The Jules, I'm sure on Discord they're going to be able to explain it to you. Is there any way to have random failures with the MTTF factor? Perhaps, but that is not mostly what it's meant for. Okay, so now we have a little door locking indicator. If I operate this handle, will the hatch open in air if we don't unlock them? Don't lock. The hatches are designed to not be able to open in air in flight. Anyway, so you'll notice it still says unlocked. This is the latching handle. That just operates the locks internal to the door. And with this, we finalize the locking procedure. Yes, in time to failure. Yeah, MTTF, MTBF, I know. And obviously, unlocking opens the little lock indicator. Sweet. So, we're inside of the jet here. It's been more than 2 minutes for sure, so we'll go and open up the APU bleed. Get the cabin nice and cool. And for funsies, let's go ahead and call Jenny. Send the fuel truck over.
Hot start flight support. Jenny speaking. How can we help?
Please, Jenny, call to send me the fuel truck.
Of course. I'll have that over with you in a minute or two. Anything else?
Nevada rocks, you don't.
Take care.
Okay, so Jenny's going to send the fuel truck. What is on my list here? Gear pins, external door opening. Okay. People have been backlighting knob. Captain radio side. Yes, it does. We fixed the whole ACP here, so if I shift that over, make it a little bit darker here so you can actually see. So yes, the which one's the one? No, that's. Am I rolling the correct one? Integral. Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah. So you should have fueler hanging on the door next. Yeah. What's the message about? Okay, check database states. Whatever. Are random responses from Jenny and Fuelman possible? Random responses in what way? Random in like, did it just tell you to go get lost? But yes, this is fixed. All the little lighty lights light up correctly. Eh. So yeah, they all work. So this has been all fixed. We've also put in the forgotten that we forgot originally to put in there is the PA position. Here's our responses when you click on things, which I this is each thing. No. Are the fueling menus available in VR? Not yet, JCYYZ. Fueler's here. You check the CBs for the frequency converter can be pushed in. It's out for me. Yes, Bundesgas. It is fixed. You want the integral lighting. Now this integral lighting right here, and we need the CB panels. Oh, yes, frequency converter can be pushed in. That's right there. So fueler has the hose attached here. I could just go ahead and sit down. We can, well, yeah, there it is. So, okay, I'm gonna sort of pop my head through so you can see the hose. And let's see where are you, Mr. Fueler? He's just about done with the hookup. Now, a lot of people have had issues with, well, a lot of people. Some people have had issues where they didn't understand what the fueler wanted from them. They'll oftentimes people assume this is like an airline, right? You close the door, the fueler does this thing, whatever, and you just tell them to get lost eventually. But on a BizJet, you have to talk to the fueler, and some people didn't understand that, so we made it apparent.
Excuse me, Captain. Can I get in?
So the fueler is going to knock on the door for you.
Open up. I know you're in there.
Anyway, that's just having a little bit of fun there. I'd be afraid to open up after you let him. A little persistent, careful with the pain.
All right, Captain. Fuel truck is hooked up. Just let me know how much fuel you need. Or would you like to go tanks full today?
So yeah, door is gone. It'll buff out. FBI, open up. Anyway, I'm just gonna tell him to get lost. It basically does that anytime the fueler needs to talk to you. He's gonna come up to the airplane, and if the door's closed, he'll let you know.
Have a nice day.
And you walk around after slamming the door. Yeah. Anyway, so that kind of stuff. Always a pleasure. Have a great flight. Appreciate your business. Yeah, I understand flights 5. We may do some stuff like that. We've generally been trying to keep the changes to a minimum for update 1. What about these dialogues in VR? Magjet, I said that not yet. Now he sounds relaxed again. You should add an aggressive fueler. You need anything? What did I drive over here for? Yeah, anyway. So he's unhooked on the nozzle over there. Anyway, he's just a computer. How do you turn off that exit sign? This, currently, we've stubbed that out. The emergency exit lighting system, the emergency lighting system isn't currently implemented fully. It's sort of stubbed out. You've got the switch in there. It'll sort of operate the lamps, but the individual lamps are not placed in the aircraft yet. When will the update be available? After I'm done with the stream, I'm basically getting it out to you folks. So, rock and roll. Let's get on with the show. Random mood on the feeler would be awesome. So, a couple more tweaks. So, one thing that we've done, talking about performance here. A lot of people have had. Am I the one? Are the seatbelt no smoking signs implemented? I couldn't see them anywhere. They do a sound now. The cabin audio control system is implemented, but we don't have the actual. They'd be like little lamps over, and if I remember right, they're in here. One of these would light up. Any updates with charts? AMA Aviation. If you mean FAA charts, I fixed those. So yes, FAA charts are implemented, or rather fixed. They were implemented, but they were broken on Windows. They work fine on Linux and Mac. So there you go. Anyway, so performance stuff. I know people have reported issues frame rate wise where they get stutters and that kind of stuff, or very low frame rate. Not stutters, it's more like consistently low frame rate. And we've sort of figured out what it is. It is not Gizmo as we originally thought. It is essentially X-Plane thrashing memory, thrashing VRAM. I had to recharge the fire extinguisher. Well, there's a menu for it. We figured out it's essentially thrashing due to excessive amounts of textures on the aircraft. Or rather, not amounts of textures on the aircraft, it's more like you had too many textures loaded, and the aircraft has a lot of textures on it, a lot of texturing detail, and therefore X-Plane had a strategy where it would basically try, and every time it was basically prone to constantly swap in new textures whenever it could. And so it basically hog all the CPU cores, and then the whole thing would sort of slow down. We have two solutions to this. So first of all, well, sort of three steps to the solution. First of all, for the regular version here that you see, what I've gone through, and I've gone with a fine-tooth comb, identified any textures that could be texture reduced, and there were a few things that basically slipped on initial release my attention, and they were accidentally shipped as 4K full res. So for instance, this little phone here, the body of it was 4K, and the screen was also 4K, and it shouldn't have been. That slipped my authoring process, and so these have been appropriately texture reduced to the point where you can't really see the difference. That's the point of it. It was meant to be an invisible fix for you guys, but we managed to slash about 20% of texture use on the aircraft down. We went from about 2.5 gigabytes in memory of textures just for the aircraft down to about 2.1. I bought the top of the line iPhone. Now you're downgrading me. Anyway, so, and this is an invisible fix for everybody. Next thing we did, I know a lot of people are running 4 gigabyte GPUs, and they're running 6 gig GPUs with ortho, and ortho is super heavy on textures. Like for instance, during the stream here, I had maximum texture quality set. This is an 8 gig GPU, but I've got Orbex True Earth HD loaded in with the airplane and max textures. It was still prone to memory thrashing. So for my part, what I had to do is I had to just bump this down about high, and this keeps the GPU happy. I can basically have the entire airplane and the scenery loaded in, no thrashing at all anymore. For 6 and 4 gig people have 6 and 4 gigabyte GPUs, we've got an alternative solution in place. We've got I just noticed this Lear not have any pylons. It really doesn't. Those are some magical engines right here. Wow. Scenery distraction 101, folks. This is some Star Trek level stuff right here. Anyway, getting back on track. Apologies for the sidetracking here. We will have two separate versions of the airplane. The regular one that you see here, and then there's going to be a texture reduced version. You're going to be able to select between them in the installer and select if you've got a 4 or a 6 gig GPU, you're going to be able to select the reduced version. It's down from about 2 gigabytes to about 1.2 gigabytes of textures loaded. And that should work better on 4 and 6 gigabyte GPUs. Now, when you say that you've got a 6 gigabyte GPU, that does not mean X-Plane has access to all 6 gigabytes and can basically load it down fully with textures at all time. X-Plane might get a smaller allocation from the operating system, especially if you've got something like a web browser running. X-Plane needs a little bit of buffer on top. So even though your indicator here might not say you're all the way up to top, this might very well be close. Like if you're 2/3 or 3/4 of the way to your capacity, this might very well already start thrashing. So the solution here is we'll ship a reduced version as well, and you'll be able to select between them in the installer. When climbing a clump thrust, engine was always exceeding max GT. What could be the causes? Tesla rules 727. So go to Discord or go to the forums. I don't have time to unfortunately answer support questions here. You probably have anti-ice on when you shouldn't, and engine anti-ice and wing anti-ice on at the same time, and that puts a lot of strain on the temperature of the engine. Anyway, so getting back on track. What was I? Thank God they don't make 4 gig gaming cards. Oh wait, yeah, AMD just had to pull their advertising a little bit because they kind of pulled an AMD. Anyway, so that was the performance stuff. And we've got a final solution as a workaround for people that have still some issues with the texturing. We have a slight tweak from Laminar on the command line. It might help. But again, if you've got a 4 gig GPU, you are already at minimum config for the airplane here. We are, and you're probably your best bet on a 4 gig card. We need to play around. If you've got trouble running a certain texture setting, don't be afraid to put it a little bit lower. And that should help alleviate any slowdowns. Like for instance, right now I just had a slight reduction in frame rate just because of the fact that X-Plane tried to thrash everything. What would be the visual downgrades in the lower spec version of the aircraft? So lesser 27. I've tried to keep the changes to a minimum. So the cockpit is still all 4K. There were some reductions in UV map quality for the lower version. Not UV map, normal map, but in general, the clarity of the text should be unaffected in here in the cockpit. What has changed is I've dropped most of the cabin here back down to 2K. The exterior model is still 4K, but essentially we dropped down stuff like the cabin paneling here is down to 2K. The landing gear texturing, this is a single 4K map, so this got dropped down to 2K and stuff like that. Did I just see screen reflection? Yes, you did. So those are the changes that have been done for the texture reduced version. I'm not going to call it a 2K version, but because it isn't. We try to keep everything in the cockpit as legible as before, so that's still going to be good. It's just that on the front of like stuff outside or stuff in the back, that's been slightly reduced. It should look almost as good as the full res version, but it should help significantly. It reduces the amount of textures and VRAM we consume on the textures significantly by like 40%. So each had a ground effect. I don't know. CMB Elite, I know you're super obsessed. I'm sorry about the ground effect, but it is slightly tweaked. It is slightly more, but not very much. You think you should be able to float at like 2.5 degrees nose up forever. It doesn't work that way. You still need to pull all the way almost up to 5. Not quite. About 3.5 to 4 should do. Just work on your flaring technique and don't fly too slow, basically. Anyway, where was it going? Okay, so we got the performance stuff out of the way. Rock and roll. It's the ADG model. It's not there yet. Boy, it's been sort of postponed until update 2. We were nearly an hour into the year, so captivating. Okay. Anyway, Does culling happen when the slide door is closed? Might help drop in the cabin textures. Yes, Energy Quant. We do cull a truckload of stuff. We do, for example, in the exterior model, we drop the entire external fuselage. In fact, that's been kind of an issue we need to sort for update 2 because it affects shadow casting. But yes, we do cull a truckload of stuff, but it isn't enough. If people keep keep doing like this, they look outside, they look inside, they look around, they'll eventually, defeat the culling system. Just because of how people sometimes are neurotic about, oh my god, I want to see stuff high res. They keep looking around, and that just puts more strain on the VRM Thrasher. Anyway, useful reduced version. We have an 8K GPU with Ortho. Nevada Rocks, I'm running the full res version with Orbex True Earth HD, and you can see it's fine. I am getting, let me see. I'm currently in Medford. I'm getting 38 frames a second with scenery shadows enabled, and let me check what my actual demanding part is. So GPU is only about 51% loaded. Interesting. But yes, I have my texture settings set to high, and that seems to be enough. I'm getting consistent frame rates here. When I look up, it's almost 60 FPS. Down, it's 60 FPS, so it's really just the scenery here that's costing me frames in X-Plane. Next to the HUD brightness, just a quick question. What is the EVS knob? That is currently in-op. We should have put a sticker on there. Did you convert textures to DDS for this version? No, bottle. It didn't help. It actually made the thrashing worse. Because X-Plane was even more aggressive about using the facility. The doors actually connect somewhat with the ground when open. Real Sim Pilot, the door, you mean the main boarding door? No, it's designed to be slightly off the ground. We need to put in for a later update, there's actually a little foot that comes out the door. That in case the airplane's sitting really, really low, it will rest on the foot and not on the body of the door. But no, the door is not designed to touch the ground. Well, it shouldn't anyway. Right, I wanted to show you one thing. The yokes have been resized. So they are a little bit larger. They were off by about 14%, so yeah, they were slightly undersized. Now they are to the millimeter exact. Okay, so we've got an assistance feature in there. We've got a slight assist feature in there in case you forget. Well, it's mostly a matter of like unloading our support. In case you forget to take the pitot covers off, or the gear pins. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna pretend I'm a bad pilot. I didn't do the walk around. Put this in. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start up an engine. So I'm a bad pilot. I didn't do my walk around. I didn't check that I got everything out of the aircraft. And oh man, did I? Huh? Did I take the pin out? Oh, the pin is still in. I gotta check why I didn't. It should have popped up a message here.
Door.
Yes, I know, no. I know. Door. Is it possible to move the HUD more forward with this update? Promo Wave, the HUD is where it's supposed to be. It cannot be moved. It's physically only in a single spot where it works. Now this is what it actually is supposed to be like. You can't just, shift the HUD about. That, like, the projector is literally up here. It has to, like, shine on it. And also, the HUD is aligned such that when you're in the default viewpoint, which is right here, this is the default viewpoint, you'll see the default viewpoint is in line with the eye alignment indicator. Well, after there, we've taken off the HUD option right there. And the third FMC, I guess, whatever. You can pull the breaker for it and be done with it. Not use it. Lower speeds and higher amounts of rain could definitely also go around. Anyway, the recommended FOV setting is really what you want, whatever you want. I'm using 95, I think. Yeah, the cockpit is built the way it is built. Like, we can't really change that. And I gotta figure out why it didn't pop up a message there for me. Is it because I resized my UI? I gotta check that. Let me see. If I go back, like, there it is. Okay, yeah. So it should have popped up this message. This is something I gotta fix before release then. When you have a resized UI, didn't correctly show there. Have door lights been animated? Not yet, Martinio. And the compass card, I think it is, yeah. We didn't get to that. It could be an unrealistic HUD option for those who use a bit different sitting position. Perhaps, we'll see. We'd have to recut geometry and mess around with stuff. It's not that easy. Nevada rocks. Anyway, so yeah, you'll get that message up there. I need to just get rid of you. So you still have the gear pins in, blah blah blah, how to get them out. Hide those caution errors. Yes, you can. VDLC is coming later, not yet. Yes, you can hide the messages. You can just disable them here. And there you go. Messages are gone. So this is basically the system ported over from the TBM. And if you don't want to, you want to ignore a message that it tells you something about, well, you can dismiss it just once, or you can just hide them all for forever. The guy removed the chalk strip bang on the door too. He sees gear pins. Bjorn, good question. Now that you mention it, there is one more method that lets you. What about engine covers? Bottle engine covers you do not put on as a pilot. Yes, if I call him for, am I okay to start number 2 engine?
Ground to cockpit. The main door is still
All
open.
right, I've got the door open. So let's say I've closed the door. If you forget the nose gear pin, no, it will not. So now I'm gonna call for hand signal. Am I okay to start number 2?
Ground to cockpit. The gear pins are still in.
So it will tell you. So there is so many layers of making sure you didn't forget that basically if you do forget, it's well, I mean, who's at fault, really, so to speak. So we can do the ultimate gear pin test. And now pilots, real world pilots are going to flinch when I do this. So that pin in, we got the nose gear pin in. This guy, okay, we got all 3 pins in the airplane. Let's go ahead and torture the plane. All right, gear down lock solenoid out, nose up, or gear out. And you can see it's not moving. So yes, real pilots are now screaming, but as you can see, it ain't moving. Can you open the door covering the weather radar landing lights? Not yet, bottle. Now pull the pins. If I do, the gear will come up. With the gear track with at ground even. Yes, it will. If you pull the nose pin now. Bundeskeks, it will come up. Does the nose pin actually get sandwiched in the door? Yes, it does. Richard Peak, it absolutely does. Now what they sometimes do in real life, if they don't want to be dealing with opening the door, would also retract. Yes, they would retract, yes. Does the plane, the real one, I mean, not have a system of sense, weight on wheels, and not pull the gear? Well, it does, lesser. It locks the gear handle down. So, you'll notice now when I try to pull the gear up, it's not going to let me because there's a mechanical lock that locks the lever down. Down lock release. This is specifically to allow you to lift the gear even when the computer thinks that's a really, really, really bad idea. Because what if your weight on wheel sensor is broken, you just took off, and you can't retract gear? Now what? So, in that case, you're supposed to do that. So, that is basically the failsafe. But if you manage to get that handle up, it will try. Can you push the throttle from shut off to idle? Look behind. Look behind where? I'm not sure what you mean. There. Oh, I just noticed that. I didn't see the ATS sticker. Interesting. How did those go away? Well, there we go. Something we never noticed. Huh, interesting. Well, we're not going to hold the release for a sticker, but yeah. Thanks for the report, and the guys that are in chat here that are on the beta team, please file this one up for you-know-who. Thank you, Captain Crash. Appreciate it. Guess I never noticed. When does it disappear? Oh, that's when. I think the animation is just a little bit off, just ever so slightly off. And it just sinks down into the throttle. Yeah, that's just that. Like a 1 degree error of rotation or something over the entire range. You fix the bug with the TCA throttle of reverse axis not working. It's not a bug, it's just the TCA throttle does something weird, and we haven't gotten to it, MO35K. The TCA throttle does like some weird axis assignment. We've got 4 methods of doing reverse in the aircraft, so we've got the reverse toggle, hold reverse, then we've got also the reverse axis, which I can demonstrate as follows. Let's see, do I have this guy here? Yeah. You've got a full separate reverse axis supported. So that's also supported. It's just the TCA does something weird with its like combined axis something, where it like treats one axis as multiple levers. So that is not yet fixed. You're gonna see the fix list is a mile long, so don't be disappointed. Display fix at the oxygen mask panel. Yes. At the that one. No, we've blanked that off. We didn't get to it yet. You mean this one? It's currently blanked off. Don't be disappointed when a specific fix that you've been hoping for didn't get into release. When you see the full change log, you're gonna understand there's a lot more here. Okay, door locking indicator we did. Right, one more thing. Well, one more thing. We've got a million other things, but one thing that I do want to talk about, speaking of fix lists, will be published. Yes, Jules. Once I'm off the stream here, I'm going to go and roll a build for everybody, and then I'm going to also compile the change log. Have to like include all the graphical fixes in there as well. They were indeed. One thing that we did fix are the goggles accessible now. Not yet. They were postponed until update 2. Didn't get to them. You can't pull the parking brake now without gear pressure, and it's going to tell you, or without mashing down on the pedal brakes, because you have to do that. And if I only press 1, they're actually still not going to let me. So these are actually mechanically interlocked with the gear pedals, or brakes. You can either use physical brake pedals if you have them, or you can use like the B key to actuate the brakes. Either one will do. Then you can pull the parking brake, and it'll work. But without it, you cannot pull on the handle here, and it's going to tell you to press on the brakes if you want to make the parking brake handle work. So That is basically to prevent people who have had issues where they would roll away. You know, they'll start the engines and think that I've got the parking brake pulled, right? I just pulled on the handle here. And I thought, so, again, it's Airbus syndrome. Everybody thinks this is an Airbus, even though it isn't. And they treat it like an Airbus, where Airbus, all you have to do is just pull the handle, and that doesn't work on a Challenger. You have to like actually mash on the brakes, then pull the handle, and then confirm that you get a parking brake on green cast here. There's some update method for reinstall. Browns, you're just going to re-download a new installer, and the installer is going to take care of everything, so you don't have to worry about it. Always the same as happens with the TBM, yes. So, we've taken care of the parking brake. Okay, that's sorted. Door locking indicator, oxygen refill I showed you. Operating the T-handle. Right. I know some folks have been confused where they would try and lock the door by pulling the little T-handle here in the opening. Done that a few times, actually. Turn the electric hydraulic pumps until engine on, then the auto. Yep. So some people have been using this T-handle to lock the door, and it's not actually the way it works. So I fixed that and that I've disallowed that, so you cannot pull on the T-handle here anymore. Instead, you gotta first do this. Then it works, and you also get a little locked, unlocked indicator. So, Airbus syndrome. I did not change the FD to cross, not at all. On cross pointer, some people do like it, and it's fully officially supported in the Avionics, so it's all fine. Cool, we got the external hoses. All right, we got the most important feature that CL650 pilots have been bugging me about. Most satisfying sound ever. And this also works obviously on gear. Let's see, this is actually gear extension. This would be flap extension or weight on wheels. So for instance, if you were on auto and you retracted the flaps, then it would go bing. If it's just a single bing airbag or 86 and a Challenger, it's not a bing bong. It's only a bing. 747-8330, get 500 bucks. Was there no sound before? Yes, LaJules. It wasn't there. Next for the follow. Rotato plane. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, you're taking care of the refueler. All right. So I know some people have been painting liveries, and they wanted to have the ability to paint on the reg manually if they wanted a very, very specific look. So there is now an option. Let me resize the UI here again. Graphics. No, not that. 150%. Some people wanted to have the ability to remove the reg off from the automatic painter here. So that is now the option. So if you go to edit appearance, you'll have an invisible one here. And then it's completely gone. You can set it here, and it'll still be nowhere to be seen. So get rid of that. Flux spot issue for pitot covers fixed. Yes. Burner ref. Yes, it is. So that is in as well. Regmark appearance. All right. So I've been messing about with everything here for a little while, for a good while. So if I now go into replay mode, we previously didn't handle replays correctly. So the airplane would like stay with chocks on and, you know, doors open and that kind of stuff. You still have to have the engines running to get engine sounds, unfortunately, but the system is now replay aware for any door animations or switching animations. So say for instance, if I on pause here, and if I move my flight controls, so full left, you know, left and right, I'm actually going to jump back in the cockpit. So play around with my flight controls here, that even any switch changes. So if I go from here to arm, back, arm, push in, push out, push out. And let's see. And so go to replay, and these all now play the same as they were. This is now replay aware. It is not, 100% exactly every frame. As in, if you wiggle them very, very quickly, it's not going to capture every single wiggle. Even these. It's replaying or storing the memories or the state of the animation, I think, twice a second or 4 times a second. I think 4 times a second. So as long as you are, sort of reasonable on the flight controls, the replay should capture, your yoke movements and that kind of stuff. Or anything having to do with things like, even though this is a door, it actually acts as if it was a switch. Or the avionics also. No, avionics replay is not implemented. Probably never will be. That's a very difficult feature to implement. So it is aware of these like door movements and that kind of stuff. I recommend flying with OpenGL or Vulkan. Personally, I fly in Vulkan, so that should work. Engine fan rotation when the engines are running. The same or not having sound replay. I don't think we can take care of that. No, we don't. So, no, unfortunately not at this time. Let OpenGL die. So, that is a replay. Also for, same thing applies to the chocks here. So, if I go and go back to the animates, even if I go to like frivolous stuff. So, even the flags are effectively sort of switches. So if I go back into replay mode, the flags animate in reverse. And of course, forward. Immo not yet on the rain effects. Will the logbook be implemented eventually? Tracks and maintenance. Yes, eventually it will. Not just yet. Cool. So that is done. Again, update 1, folks, is mostly about bug fixes. What you don't see here is the list of bug fixes they're in. Stability fixes, crashes, that kind of stuff. Copy plan for a future update. Yes. Yes, it is. Right. There was an increase in the ground effect a little bit. So the remaining items that I've got here on the agenda are mostly about little tweaks and fixes. So TCAS, people have had issues with it on Batsim and Iveo. So I've put in a workaround to make it work with those guys. So TCAS is going to be now fully functional on those networks with default clients, even XPilot 1 and that kind of stuff. XPilot 2 already had a beta out that put in a workaround for it to make it work with us. But I've put in a default workaround that will make it basically work with any network client, including a IVAO. Potable water lab. Not any news right now. Happy. Later. So TCAS should now work perfectly fine. We've also had the altimeter issues fixed. It was an interoperability problem where basically this your altimeter setting here. Let me jump over to inches since I'm in the US. Where the altimeter setting was not being synced over to the X-Plane side of things, so X-Plane didn't know about our also Swift. Promo Wave, it should work with basically anything that uses the basically properly signals TCAS traffic. Also no longer needs caging. Yes, 777 Bob. Yes, also this guy here is fixed. So it should work perfectly fine. Basically the problem was that the altimeter setting here was not being transferred back to the default X-Plane data refs, and therefore the network clients thought that you were flying at the wrong altitude. Even if you had disabled the user setting here for network flying for like temperature effects, they still thought that you had a different altimeter setting than you actually had. So that's all solved. Gordon mentioned on Discord, a ping kit will be made available approximately 1 up to 2 weeks late. 1 up to 2 days later. Is this still current? Tommy 151 will try and get the paint kit out as soon as I can, as soon as we can, but I can't tell you an exact ETA on it. Goran worked pretty hard on getting all the fixes in. He showed a new pop-up. Palm 57, if you mean the one for the ISI, yes, for its attitude finding, that's my very favorite, to be honest. Well, next to the flags. But yes. It looks similar to the inertial ref. the IRS, but it isn't quite the same. The IRU state looks like this, and the standby instrument has a lot more. It has a lot more algorithms specifically designed to do attitude finding when you're in motion. You can fly with it now if you correct for networks or additional bug on top of that setting. An issue in the clients does evidence no. Vatsim with temperature. No. Evidence no. That's a different thing. If you try to do that, then they would actually see you at a different altitude. Pilot to ATC, we can turn this off. Also work, right? Pilot to ATC, probably not. We don't even, first time I heard about it, I assumed that that's some sort of a robotic ATC system. It should see your barometer setting, and it should see, now you're just gonna see you flying at a different altitude, so no, it won't quite work, I'm afraid. Once I wasn't able to go above 3050. Was it a bug? No, 3150 is, if I remember right, is the max baro setting in the Collins here. This is the limit, 3150, not 3050. 180 west bug fixed. Yes, that is fixed. So yeah, that is that. And let's see what else. All right, the FMC was filtering out database airports that, well, 3150 is the limit and the real thing. Like, we literally scrolled the real thing over to the max and min. Lower one is really, really low, if I remember right. It goes to like super low, like 26 or something. Yeah. The low limit is extremely low. I don't know why. Like 22 inches or something like stupid like that. There we go. 22 inches is the minimum. I don't know why, but that's the thing. That's what the real thing does. Ready to fly into a superstorm. You can see the altimeter here bottom out at minus 2,000 feet. Very high altitude airports. Nils, it's probably for QFE flying in Russia and stuff, where you could set this to a very low QFE setting after being paused for a decent amount of time. Yes, it will lose GNSS. That's because you're flying real time. That suddenly makes time jump forward in the sim. So that's why it loses GNSS signal for a little moment. Don't worry, it'll recover. No, it's for, if I understand it right, I think it's for QFE flying. So it's like, yeah, 745 hectopascals. Yeah. Cool. All right, FMC filtering of airports. So what was what's the ICAO for Gibraltar? It's EG. Oh, I forgot. You guys tell me. Oh, it's LXGB, isn't it? Yes. So we've played around on the real box. Apparently, it lets you set altitude scroll wheel acceleration to match TBM scroll wheel speed. It's already accelerated, so I can go to like, I don't know, 10,000 feet. There. I can tell you that wasn't 100 clicks of the mouse wheel, for sure. So there's 20. Split off the wheel. That's 30. Why are some airports not shown in the database? Well, that's what I'm talking about right here, Trident. It's being fixed. I had a bunch of rules in there that excluded. Way slower for me. Well, I mean, I need to stop the zoom plugin. Stop zooming down. Yeah. So LXGB is now it's gonna find it in database. Obviously, if you can find it in here, LXGB, you can actually put it into the flight plan. And I think, if I remember right, LXGB doesn't actually have any approach procedures anymore. Coded in, yeah. Oh no, it actually, well, apparently it still has an RNAV. No, hang on, that's an old database, isn't it? Here we go. Let's go ahead and fix that. flight plan, LXGB. Actually, let's go to depart arrive. Yeah, it's just visual from here on out. A lot LOL. And refueler. Cool. So yeah, LXGB is now functional. We had to play around in the airplane. There's almost no limit to what airport it's going to let you select. Like, I know a bunch of little teeny tiny airports that are basically just little grass runways. Anybody give me a grass runway airport in your neighborhood, in your backyard, anything you can think of. Actually, also things that were fixed is nearest airports page, so that now works. It also gives you, well, if I had put in fuel, how much I got on board, it'll also give you fuel estimates to your nearest airports and that kind of stuff. EDMJ. All right, there was somebody who was asking about an airport that's like near Frankfurt, where the BizJet traffic operates from. EDMJ. So that works. EBHN, that's somewhere in. So yeah, almost all airports are now contained in it. So yeah, EPOD, LRCN. Ah, that one no. EKKH. That isn't in the database either. Does that even exist in airplane? EDFE. Ah, that was the one, yes. So, yeah, Engelsbach. That one works. So that one works as well. Really small. LSGP. Yes. It's there. And let's see what runways it has. It has 1,350... a 2,000 foot runway. So yeah, you can now enter pretty much. You can now enter pretty much every LSZS. That's pretty big, isn't it? Or am I mistaking it for something? Yeah, Semadon. Okay. Well, that's a big runway right there. So yeah. This thing is custom everything Unreal Airford. Well, glad you like it. Where was the fuel to the airport list again? It's in direct nearest airports. And over on the right hand side, it's going to show you how much fuel you're going to have. Obviously, I'm stationary here, so it's kind of be very off. But yeah, it is able to estimate roughly how much fuel you're going to have remaining if you go in direct divert to an airport. I want to go to EGLC so badly. Please make the option for JetWest setting. Yeah. Cool. Is the database not limited to the aircraft type? It isn't actually. Promo Wave. Apparently, we've played around with it. It literally finds every possible grass runway that you can think of, pretty much. Now, the way that you filter out any unsuitable runways is here on the direct to page. But if you select that you want to go there on a flight plan, what was the which one's the one that is for the got the one right next to Frankfurt again. No. EDFE, yeah, there we go. Oh, I'm sorry. So yes, you can go from it or to it as well. It does support that by runway line. So the filter here on direct to, on the direct page, direct to nearest airport, the filter is here minimum runway length. And you can select anything. I think the minimum is like 985 feet. That's the minimum it's going to let you set. 984, it's going to reject. And you select the units that are used on here in the aircraft pinning config here. In the airframe manager, edit options, and you can change the default runway lengths to meters if you're that way inclined. But yeah, that's in. If I go like this, for instance, it changes the minimum runway or the runways it'll present to me because I've put in 985 minimum runway length, and if I revert it back to 3,000 feet, go update, it will filter out anything that's shorter than that. If you click on anything, it'll go direct to that airport, down the flight plan, obviously. If I had a flight plan, if I was actually flying. Go to there, and that's 3 Sierra 8. So that is in, and that pretty much. Oh, there's one more thing. I know some people have had issues. I'm not going to go again over the entire fix list because we'll be here until next year. But yes, outboard brake pressure. I know. But one of the things was it was a completely unexpected thing where I didn't anticipate this, but the way we determine where the GPS satellites are in the constellation here is we basically just download the almanac. Is it possible to insert alternate fuel? Mo 35K, that's not the way Collins works. In Collins, it gives you the alternate fuel. It tells you, if you're talking about alternate route, no, the alternate route functionality is not yet implemented. You can insert an alternate airport and it will give you the fuel estimated at that airport once you get there. You can't, well, the fuel is more like a reserve, right? Okay, let's do a quick flight plan out of somewhere to somewhere. Well, let's go from quick flight plan, sim brief. There we go, that's what I wanted. I'll do a new flight. I'm just gonna quickly punch in a flight from Medford to, I don't know, San Francisco. And I'll pick the Challenger and generate whatever. Yes, overwrite anything. Good stuff. So if I go and fetch the flight plan here, flight plan recall 6. What controller sensitivity am I using in X-plane? I'm using everything linear, if I remember right. Joystick, control sensitivity, 0 stability, 0 control response 0, everything linear, like that. Cool. Flight plan number, send, and so data link flight plan loaded, secondary flight plan, activate, execute. And so the way it works on Collins, and it says course reversal and flight plan, doesn't matter. The way it works in Collins is if you go here to perf 3, well, first I gotta insert a flight altitude. So let's go to flight level 320, whatever. And now it's gonna compute a fuel at destination. If I put in my alternate, which I think it wanted to put me over to Oakland, or where they want to put me? SMF, so that's Sacramento. If I put in an alternate, go to perf init, it's now going to also show me my alternate fuel. No, it's not susceptible to 5G interference. So you can now see the airplane's complaining check fuel at alternate because it's below my reserve. If I want to change, I can go ahead and change my reserve to, let's say I only want 1,000 pounds of reserve fuel. Execute. That gets rid of that message. I'm going to dismiss that reversal in flight plan. That's just basically it telling me that it expects me to make a more than 160-degree turn in the legs, which probably isn't what you want, usually anyway. Yeah, it goes from Medford to OED, then back, which I need to. There's supposed to be if I select a SID, Jackson 1. Okay, so if I go Jackson 1, whatever, whichever runway, 32. Jackson 1, execute. That removes that message. It's no longer going to complain about the course reversal because it knows that, okay, you're going to go OED through that kind of a path, and then apparently you want to expect to be flying southwards. Anyway. And that's calculated for direct. Yes, direct to alternate from a wave. You can change if you want. You can change the alternate cruise altitude, which I think defaults to 13,000 feet. If you want to fly at like 10,000 feet, that will change the computation. So remember, at 1630, if I put in 10,000, still 1630. Okay, probably hit close to the target number, or it might not actually make the climb up, or it might not make a difference. Hang on, did I bug this up? It should have changed here. Well, good to know. That's something I gotta look at. Unreleased story about whatever you have time. Really about the adding fuel density information with the fueler. Ask you if you want any more. Lesser, it's on my to-do list. There's so many things that I've got that just got punted because it's not a critical fix. 99% accurate. It is very close. Yes. Yeah. Alternate cruise, initial cruise for sit clearance. That should be like the en route cruise to your alternate. Really, people get hung up on alternate cruise plans. They are rarely ever used. Like, for the rare case where you ever have to divert, it's even more rare to need a new flight plan for an alternate. Only in the very rare case where your alternate is like hundreds of miles away. Then maybe. But that's for to go on like Saint Helena Island or something like that. I'm able to get checked airport OET despite not having entered. It's Thomas 30 NG. That's go to Discord. I'll explain it to you how to take care of that. Temp comp on index page 2. Yeah, there you go. Already got the answers right there rolling in. Cool. So I'm gonna wrap up the stream here. Yes, it should default to off now as well. Yes, it will. I'm gonna wrap up the stream here, folks, and I'll get on getting that update out. Yeah. I just got to do one more thing, and then we'll ship it. Cool. So I'll see you later. Hopefully you're going to be flying this very, very soon. The update, and don't forget to pull your gear pins, or you're going to have a bad day. And put on flags, just because they look cool. Spend like a day putting all this physics in, so go ahead and use them. And don't forget to take them off again. Come on. Yeah, there it is. So, it livens up the airplane. And I just love this sound. Just go and come and listen to this. All you Challenger pilots are going to enjoy this real world. I could just play around with this all day long. Even the pin makes a sound. And yes, when the door is when the door no longer, how will the update go? You'll get an email explaining everything. And yeah, when the door's open, obviously the flag can move, but when the door's closed, it's squished in and it ain't going nowhere anymore. Good stuff. So I'll talk to you later, folks. How about the baggage door? Baggage door's gonna come in the future, not right now. Okay, I'll talk to you later, folks. Everybody, thanks for stopping by, and yeah, I'll get on it. Cheers. Love y'all. Bye.